to our listening and viewing public. Happy am I to welcome you to this morning's post-cabinet briefing. As you are aware, yesterday we had to postpone as a result of the Parliament sitting of the lower house. So we're here this morning and we're happy to have with us for the first time on this briefing Honorable Peter David, the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Labour. He will speak with us this morning on updates under his areas of responsibility, as well as coming out of the cabinet meeting on Monday. Also this morning, we'll take a presentation from the Immigration Department. As we know, immigration falls under the auspices of Prime Minister Mitchell. So the immigration officers, including the head of immigration, Superintendent Aesop Pierre, as well as Inspector Leroy Joseph, will do a presentation on the new e-passport system. We've heard a lot about it. So we'll hear this morning about the rollout, the plans, the benefits, the procedures, etc. for that. So we'll first take the presentation from Immigration Department. We'll take your questions, and then we'll transition to Minister David right here, and then take questions again. Okay, thank you very much.
Honorable Minister, Press Secretary, members of the press, viewing and listening audience. It's a pleasure for us today to present the status report on Grenada's e-passport regime. With the support of the government of Grenada, our e-passport regime is well on schedule. Inspector Joseph here will outline to us our present status. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Pierre, Officer in charge of Immigration. Good morning to everyone, the press, Honorable Minister, Peter David, Acacia Press Secretary, good morning. I will just outline the e-passport and what is an e-passport and the benefits of e-passport. An e-passport is an enhanced secure passport with an embedded electronic chip. It is distinguished by a logo and at the front cover. It is also called biometric passport. It has become mandatory for government to reinforce security features in national borders. An e-passport are designed to increase our security features and security at the border, making it more difficult to change data recorded on a passport and therefore eliminating some of the fraud which may appear on a passport. It has become very necessary for Grenada to make this transition from the machine-readable passport, the MRP, to an upgrade of e-passport. The Immigration and Passport Department will issue Grenada e-passport as of July 2018. The passport will meet International Civil Aviation Standard, ICAO, required standard for securing and storing information corresponding to the passport and the passport bearer. It is expected that Grenada e-passport will be ranked higher than our present passport on the rollout and the issuance of our e-passport. The specific aim of facilitating the freedom of movement of its people, goods and services in order to foster integration and the socio-economic development of our country. The added benefit to our e-passport, which I will just outline, the passport will meet ICAO standard. As I said, the International Civil Aviation Standard. It is a most secure document for Grenada. We know that passport can be counterfeit easily throughout the world. There is a good force persons who involved in this fraudulent document, and we have to guard against that. So moving into our e-passport regime, it will guard ourselves from being compromised. It will increase from 32 pages to 36 pages with a cost of $175 for a validity of 5 years. And let me emphasize here that this passport, the e-passport, is 3 times the cost of our MRP presently. It should be $375, but however, the government subsidized the e-passport at a reduced cost of $175 EC. Most member states within the OECS, passport is in excess of $200 Like for example, Antigua and St. Kitts is $350 with also added administrative costs. So as I said, government subsidized the passport from $375 to $175. So the passport come July, our e-passport, I want to emphasize it will be $175, an increase of $50. One of the benefits, persons come walking in the passport office, we take live photo at no charge. So instead of going to a photo studio, you can come to the passport office, capture your image, and it will be captured also on your passport. The system will allow to add new features in phase 2. We get online application. So sooner than later, Grenada will move into online application with the e-passport. Greater possibility of interfacing at the borders. When you come into at the airport, for example, at Maurice Bishop International Airport, I'll be using the kiosk. Many of you will use the kiosk at the airport without interfacing with our immigration officer. Just swipe in your passport, and you have easy access, seamless travel, and you go straight to customs. In the same breath, when you travel with your e-passport, you will use interface with kiosks at the other borders, and it will be ease of travel for you also by using that e-passport. So there are several benefits coming out from the e-passport. In short, the security is also one of our main agenda. Our present passport, the system become obsolete. The company no longer produces the system we have right now, and we must change into our e-passport. That direction the world is moving, and Grenada cannot get left behind. So we have to move in the direction of acquiring our e-passport. Thank you very much. I'll hand it back to Superintendent Pierre.
Just to add, in addition to the Just to add, in addition to the live capture, as Inspector mentioned, we will also have accommodation for persons in wheelchair. So for the capturing of their photos. If they are challenged in other areas in terms of capturing their photos, they can come to the office, main office, and that will be taken care of. It had become very necessary for the government of Grenada to transition. We have been using our old system since 2001. The technology utilized in the old system is known as thermal encapsulation, and as such, this is what we call heat. So you have to heat the pages in order to place the data page into the old passport. This technology has caused Grenada to lag behind. We remain the only country in the CARICOM region that is utilizing this technology to produce passports. We needed to upgrade to a safer document. As such, we are moving into the e-passport. Thank you.
Super, just to elaborate, please, what happens to persons who are still carrying the old passport or who has some years before expiration?
So previously we issued handwritten passports. That has already run its track, no longer being accepted as a travel document. A requirement by the International Civil Aviation Organization. Then we moved into the machine-readable passports, which we are using currently. These passports had initially a 10-year option. The 10-year option will end, those persons carrying 10-year passports will end in 2021 for the most. That will be the end of that cycle. The present passport will run its course, and the expiration of these passports will be in 2023. So at 2023, all passports issued by the passport office in Grenada would be machine-readable e-passports.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take questions, please. Chrislina, where is the mic?
My question is, how long would it take to get a passport? Now, the one that we're presently using, it would have taken perhaps 3 days for persons to collect. How long would the e-passport take?
Okay. So the services provided by the Immigration and Passport Department here, it will continue in terms of the passport being delivered within 3 working days. We also will continue our expedite service where persons can have their passport obtained within 24 hours. And also prior to before the 3 days. You know that there's an additional cost of $100 that will remain, or the cost of $50 for the express. This will remain. And it is a service that has become very critical. Most of the time, persons do not check their passport. They arrive at the airport only to realize that their passport is expired. Most of the time, they are checking primarily the validity of their visa and not so much the expiration date of their passport. So we have been coming to the rescue of a lot of travelers, whereby we were able to provide that service, the emergency service, and persons have been able to continue on the travels. So that will continue. The validity time will continue.
Nolene Thompson, WPG 10. The kiosk that's currently at the airport, would they be able to facilitate both passports at the same time?
Yes, the kiosk will be able to process the both passports. If your passport, the MRP, expired, then you'll be given an e-passport, and it will accommodate it. It will also generate a receipt for you, with the interface with the processing room. So the passport has been processed. It will link with the processing room, and you will see 2 images on that receipt, that of when you apply for the passport and when you're now swiping it into the kiosk.
Morning, Linda Straker. From the time the announcement made that we'll be having new passport, there are some persons who are not very much clear as to what period now they need to bring in their passport for renewal. Can you just explain to persons whether or not, at what point do you bring in your passport? So a person who was acquired a new passport, let's say in February this year, do they have to now get a new one as of July? Some people is of that opinion. Just clarify, at what point does a person has to come in to get this new passport?
So all passport presently in circulation will run its validity period of the based on the issuance date. On the completion of the validity date, the expiration date, person will be expected to come in and have their passport renewed. Following which, phase 2 will allow for persons, whether in the diaspora or what the case might be, to apply online. But the passports that you have with you currently, it remains valid. There will be a 2-day period when we expect persons, when we will cease the issuance of the current passport and roll out the new passport. And this information will be given to the public, but persons do not have to surrender or bring in their old passport in order to get a new passport. If they wish to do that, it will be an additional cost to the applicant. But your passport will remain valid until its expiration date, mostly by the year 2023.
And then the other clarity I need, normally I have had to take a passport more than one occasion. When you take that picture out, somebody has to sign the back of it to say this is a true reflection of Linda Straker. You mentioned earlier that now people will be able to come in and get that photo taken there. So does that mean that process is also no longer applicable to have somebody ID the back of that picture?
Section 12 of the passport form still remain valid and very critical to the whole process. Another area that we are looking at is the regularization of the form. And Inspector Joseph here can speak to that issue.
No, so I just wanted, so right now, okay, so when you roll out, okay, go ahead. So you talk and then probably I'll yeah.
There's some changes will take place at the passport form. But in relation to the question you asked, the recommender will maintain it on the passport form. So, normally the photo will be recommended together with, along with the form. The form still maintain. We still maintain the recommender on the form. So if you start making a false declaration, the recommender will be held liable. So if we walk in, the immigration officer will identify you, but on the passport form, there is a declaration that the recommender have to make, and this is critical.
So that
Not on the picture.
So there will be some changes to the form that will be used once we have the new rollout.
Well, there will be some changes, some legislative changes on the form. It will be it will become friendly. The form will be made a little bit friendly than how it is presently. Sometimes persons have difficulty in filling out the form, but we will outline the instruction on the form to make it much easier for a person filling out that form.
So from July, a person coming to get a passport, they need to just come with the form, but they will get a picture taken out at the passport office.
Okay. Just for clarification, this is an added service being provided to applicants. We still have persons needed to go to the photo studio, have the photo captured, and have it recommended and present to the immigration officer. But we're giving Grenadians additional option of having their photo taken at the main office. But we still will have the need for persons to present the certified or endorsed photo. So we offer an additional service to persons.
Now, my last question on this for now. You said Grenada is the last country to take such measures now, to adopt that?
Yeah. So
why did we wait so long? What was the problem?
So the upgrade is both upgrade of our book passport and also upgrade of our passport issuing and control system. Grenada's passport has always stood the test of time, but it has become necessary, as Inspector mentioned. The type of laminate is no longer, and the processing is no longer being produced. So the consumables for these equipment we are presently is no longer available. So we have to upgrade. But our passport has run the test of time.
Okay. Can I ask one other question? The Office of Immigration falls under the Office of the Prime Minister, right?
Yes.
Well, I trust you'll be able to answer that. Recently, we know of a case in which someone had to be deported. As head of immigration, would you be able to confirm that that person has been deported or still continue to be residing in Grenada? If in Grenada, where are they presently?
Yes, Saturday. Oh, okay.
But we deport several people, ever so often. Who in particular are you referring to?
Oh, I'm referring to a case involving a Pakistani national where his lawyer, I think, had filed also a constitutional motion.
Striker, just to interrupt, sorry, I don't think they're liable to answer a question of this nature. This is probably more a question you need to ask the Prime Minister. I think that's where you headed because it was asked before. So I'm not sure that it falls under your purview to answer that.
The Attorney General Chambers might be able to answer that question.
Also, the head of immigration cannot confirm to us the status of the person.
Well, the case of deportation is a matter for the Attorney General Chambers and the Prime Minister Office.
Okay, thank you.
Any other? All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you, Superintendent and Inspector.
Thank you very much.
now transition to Minister Peter David.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Mr. David.
Let me first thank you for being here and thank the dear press secretary for accompanying me this morning. As you're well aware, this is my first press briefing, post-cabinet, I think it's referred to, post-cabinet press briefing. And I look forward to engaging with you for whatever time we're here this morning and answering questions, provided I'm able to. I can only answer questions I have answers to. But as you're well aware, I fall under the portfolio, and my portfolios are labor and foreign affairs. And so I will address those two issues, and I will proceed to make whatever announcements that come out of cabinet that are mandated to so do. As Minister of Labor, I want to say that and express my gratitude, as I did in Parliament yesterday, to the organized labor movement for a warm reception, not only at Labor Day, May 1st, but in engagements that we've been able to undertake so far. As I said to them on Labor Day, I felt quite at home, having marched with the labor movement for many, many years. Many of you would have seen me then and accompanied me in some cases over the years, because the cause for which they fight is a cause for which all of us have in solidarity. I also met with the business community through the Employers Federation, and many issues were raised. And it was good to see that many of the issues raised by the employees were also raised by the employers. With respect to some of the issues, I'll just give a brief indication. Dispute resolution was one of the serious concerns. How do we resolve disputes in a faster way and in a way that is more convenient to both sides? Because you have issues, and I've met some of them that have been lingering on for years, some of them quite small, some of them very serious. So we had discussions with both parties, the TUC and the Employers Federation, as to how do we enhance the resolution of disputes between labor and employers. We have had several proposals, and what we've decided as an overarching approach, we've decided that we are going to have engagements on a regular basis. We are proposing on a quarterly basis engagements with both the labor movement, organized labor movement, and the employers' organizations, quarterly discussions, quarterly meetings to have these discussions. So the resolution of disputes was one of the areas of concern. The labor movement also raised the issue of how do we deal with the issue of contract work. Again, I am new to the ministry, and some of these issues I will have to address. And again, in the discussions with them, I undertook to engage on that. Pension reform was a big issue raised by the labor movement. And again, as you're aware, that is a matter that the government is currently engaged with the union at this time. The representation of workers and statutory bodies. So there were many, many issues raised by the labor movement. What I think comes out for me, including the subvention from government to the labor movement, is an issue that they raised. And again, I indicated to them that we will have further discussions. I think, for me, the most important thing that came out of the meetings with both the unions and the Employers Federation is the need for us to talk. As you're well aware, this government has been quite engaged with social partners. As the Prime Minister indicated and has indicated over and over again, we would not have been able to achieve all of what we achieved by way of development of this country and stabilization of the economy were it not for the cooperation of the unions, cooperation of the employers, cooperation of the workers in general. And for that, we are extremely grateful. Not to say that we do not have continuing positions that differ. We do, and we will always have positions that differ. But the question is, how do we resolve them, and how do we recognize that at the end of the day, it's not about our own individual interests, but the interests of the country. And for the cooperation with workers, the cooperation of the employers, the cooperation of the social partners as a whole, the NGO community and all of them, we are extremely grateful for that. So I think my initial engagement tells me that we are going to be continuing what I believe is a relatively very quiet industrial environment, what I believe is a very cooperative approach to development of this country. So I want to just express that publicly to the unions and to workers in general. We also looked at, and we are looking at in the Ministry of Labor, the expansion of the temporary workers program. Many people call it the apple picking program or the farmers program in Canada. We are trying at the Ministry of Labor to expand that to include caregivers, health and wellness workers, hotel workers in Canada. Many countries like Jamaica and St. Lucia, they benefit much from the program, and they are not limited to apple picking and agricultural engagement. And we have asked our Council General in Toronto to look into that, and I must say that initial indications are that we are going to be able to do some of that in a not too distant future. So we are hopeful that the engagement would lead to more Grenadian workers in other areas other than apple picking, as it is known, to get involved. We're also looking at a review of the labor code, and as I said recently, the minimum wage. That is something that we are looking at. As you're well aware, there is no single minimum wage. It's done sectorally, and we are looking at some of the areas to see which are the ones that we will look at. We have advised Cabinet that we are in the process of setting up the Wages Advisory Board. That is to be set up within the next couple of weeks, and they will advise the government on the issue of wages and where we should look at. I think we are all in agreement that having sacrificed over the last 5 years or 4 years in the structural adjustment program, that it is something that we need to look at. As Prime Minister Mitchell says all the time, we should all benefit, and the workers should benefit from the sacrifices that have been made over the last 5 years. So that, in a nutshell, is where we are with the Ministry of Labor. I'll entertain questions after I conclude. With respect to the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, I told the Prime Minister I have two ministries. One keeps me on the ground and one keeps me in the air. The one that keeps me in the air, my constituency, would be outside of Grenada, the Ministry for Foreign Affairs. Firstly, I want to thank all of the workers again in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, ambassadors who are out there on the front line, hardly ever seen in the work that they do, but they're out there as far as China, New York, Washington, Brussels. We have an embassy in Brussels also. We have people in several areas. Miami, London, as Press Secretary says. There's a whole core of good Grenadian public servants who are out there in the diaspora, not in the diaspora meaning in our communities, but out there in the world, who are engaging on Grenada's behalf. And what they do out there is advocate for Grenada. For example, in cases like in Morocco, where we don't have an ambassador, but we have persons engaged, they talk about scholarships and agriculture, fertilizer. In places like China, where we have Ambassador Antoine, we look at scholarships also in London. We take care of our communities in Washington, very much engaged at the OAS in Miami with our community. So I want to just express gratitude to them for the work that they've done, and gratitude to our Permanent Secretary, who has done much work in ensuring that Grenada is properly represented out there. We have our traditional, what we call traditional partners, places like Canada, the United States, Great Britain, who we've had historic trade ties and other ties with over the years. But the ministry is also looking at new areas of cooperation. And in recent years, we have gone down that road because the engagement with countries like Morocco and Venezuela and Cuba are not long-standing relationships, but are new relationships that we have benefited from, what we call non-traditional partners like Brazil and so on. So we are going to be trying to further that engagement with in countries in Africa, both in the north of Africa, in Morocco, is an embassy, OECS mission. Embassy will be established in a not too distant future, and Grenada will have somebody there. And also in sub-Saharan Africa, places like South Africa and Namibia, we are going to engage, because at the end of the day, there are countries like Namibia, countries like Angola, who are resource rich and who have expressed an interest in engaging with us. Countries like Ghana and Sierra Leone, these are countries that we need to have. You know, I'm always amazed that a traditional friend has to be Africa, because Africa is where we've all come from, but we treat Africa as if it's somewhere out of our remit. So we are going to be engaged at several meetings recently. We engaged with the African continent, Southeast Asia. Countries like Vietnam and Indonesia. We recently accredited the Indonesian ambassador in Grenada, based in Caracas, to Grenada. And Indonesia, Vietnam, these are countries, again, that the possibilities are great. As is well known, Vietnam is very good in what they call aqua, the aqua farming and that kind. So Vietnam and countries like those will be countries that we engage in. We are in the process of establishing a foreign policy bureau that will look at our foreign policy initiatives and get a mandate from cabinet to pursue these things. Grenada, I must report though, that Grenada has an excellent image abroad, and that is a result of two things. One is that people have looked at Grenada, the peaceful environment, the stable environment, and said that Grenada is doing something right, despite the fact that we have a very contentious political environment. We have many political parties in Grenada. We have very active elections process in Grenada. Despite that, the transitions are always smooth, and the country is quite stable. So they look to Grenada and look at the engagement, and they have said that clearly is a result. And we know that to be the result of the approach of the government, the approach of the Prime Minister to include people in the process. The social partners, again, I don't think we in Grenada recognize how much other countries look at that process with a certain amount of jealousy, that we have been able to pull people together, not to make everybody the same, not to make everybody agree on everything, but to allow people to work together for the country. And I think that is what is looked at by persons outside of the country, and we receive much praise for that. The second thing, I think, is our principled position. Grenada has always taken a very principled position in our foreign policy. We have said, and we continue to say outside, that we do not follow any particular line except that benefits the world in terms of maintaining peace and benefits the development of this country. That is why we have supported that the Caribbean, the region, be maintained as a zone of peace. That is why we've called for peaceful resolution of conflicts, such as Venezuela and other countries in the region. So Grenada's principled position is something that countries have come to respect, and the Prime Minister's active engagement in matters such as climate change, in matters that concern the existential issues for us. Again, we've gotten the respect of countries like the U.S. In fact, when we were at a meeting in the Bahamas, I met with the U.S. ambassador, U.S. undersecretary, who came from Washington to meet with us, and I had a bilateral engagement with him. He indicated that Grenada and the U.S. continue to be very much engaged on many of these issues I referred to. So I think we are doing well internationally, and I want to congratulate all of our ambassadors, our consul generals, our ambassadors at large, persons who have worked with us, our peers and our persons in the ministry. Recently, we had the meeting of the Caribbean foreign ministers, CARICOM foreign ministers, where we discussed several issues. We had the CHOGAM meeting, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in London. You know, the big issue there was Windrush. I think everybody understands what Windrush is. I want to again applaud our representatives in London for having the first time really have the British tell us sorry for something. And, you know, there have been calls for reparations and all kinds of issues, but the British have apologized to the Caribbean. Although we believe much more needs to be done. We've had meetings of the OECS where climate change and other issues have been discussed, and the Organization of American States in Peru. In Grenada last week, we had a meeting of C24, which is a committee of 24, which is a committee for decolonization at the United Nations. Traditionally, it's been very contentious. In fact, I think last year the PS will correct me if I'm wrong. There was a physical fight in the meeting in St. Vincent between two parties, one the colonizer allegedly and the other one the colonized allegedly, and it was quite a contentious meeting. The same meeting took place in Grenada last week, and everybody left quite happy that the meeting was able to bring parties together. Maybe it's the environment, maybe it's the air, maybe it's the people, I'm not sure. In fact, that is what was said by some of the parties. Maybe it's the peaceful nature of our people that has caused that. But the C24 meeting was quite successful, and I think all of the parties left, meaning the parties who are participants in the Committee on Decolonization left quite happy. So those are the two ministries, just a brief survey of some of the things we're doing. I only have a couple of issues coming out of Cabinet this week that I need raised here today. One is the issue of a review of the constituency offices. Plans are being discussed as we speak. In fact, there's a meeting taking place where the future organization of constituency offices are being discussed. As many people are well aware, constituency offices, meaning parliamentary representative offices, are the places where people go for assistance, be it housing assistance and other forms of assistance. That is where some people first engage with some of these issues. They have been, in many cases, working quite well, and in other cases, working not so well. So there's currently a review taking place so that the offices in the upcoming 5 years will better serve the community and better assist the government in delivering services to the community. So that is being undertaken, and we hope that at the end of that process, whatever the outcomes are, that we are better able as parliamentarians. And remember, this is not only going to cover parliamentarians who are currently in the office. It's going to include parliamentarians later. It is just coincidence that the government now has 15 seats, but were it any other parliamentarian, the offices are available. So whatever structures and systems are put in place at the moment will benefit whoever gets into to wins a seat in Parliament in the future. So the government is currently seeking to solve the problem by engaging, and in the process, engagements have taken place with several community organizations, several persons, to come to the best solution with respect to that. The other issue I want to report on is the CBI program. As you're well aware, there are two routes to the Citizenship by Investment program. One is what's called Section 11, which we have projects like the Kimpton Bay and other projects being constructed. The other one is the Section 10, which is a contribution to what's called the Transformation Fund. That Transformation Fund was established as a means of ensuring that the monies received are used for transformative purposes in the country. And it has worked well so far. The CBI program, I must report, has been doing great. I think in the Caribbean, we are seen as one of the best CBI programs, not only because of its value to the recipients, but also because of the very strict and very, diligent approach. A due diligence process is one that is, I've had people complain, the process is too rigorous. I say, well, it is better to be safe than sorry. So while the process has been rigorous in its due diligence approach, it has delivered a substantial amount of resources for the development of this country. And as the Transformation Fund indicates by its name, it is aimed at ensuring that transformation takes place in all sectors of the country. Now, not all the sectors can be addressed at the same time, but what we're doing at the moment is having a review of the effectiveness of the use of the fund. The fund has been doing well thus far, but of course, looking forward over the next 5 years, we want to make sure that it is more effective and it is targeted at areas that we believe need immediate concern that will have a long-term positive impact. This includes the youth empowerment programs that are aimed at empowering our young people. It involves skills training, and as you're well aware, skills training is something that we need to develop. I always tell the story that sometime in November, a friend called me who was a contractor, and he said, Pedro, I need 3 masons. And, it was around the time elections being called. I figure, yes, I can find 3 masons, and that would be good. I'll get 3 masons for a job. And I started on Friday and ended up on Monday not being able to find 3 masons, because while they were unemployed youth, they were not trained as masons. So I think what we need to do, in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, of course, is to focus on training our young people in particular skills. In fact, as we travel and meet with persons, I remember speaking to the Indian Minister yesterday of Health. We spoke to the Moroccans. We've spoken to several persons, the United States ambassador, undersecretary recently, the Canadian ambassador. We tell all of them that while we welcome all of the scholarships that we've been receiving, and we need more scholarships, we need to look at a new orientation toward skills training, short-term, 1-year course, 6-month course, and we believe that the Transformation Fund is another area that can help us in that regard, because it will really be transformative for our young people and for the country. So the Transformation Fund of the CBI to be used in that regard. Establishing small businesses. I have said, and I've said time and time again, that we need to teach our young people that they not only need to go out and find a job, but they need to go create jobs. But we can't say that to them unless we create an environment where they can establish their own businesses. So the CBI program, a program, as I indicated, that I believe can be transformative in its impact, that we are going to use it to help develop small business approaches. We know that the banks and all of the banks are quite rigorous in their lending procedures, and young people who have no history of business are finding it difficult to establish businesses. It's like you go for a loan or you go for a job and they tell you need to have experience to get the job. Well, somebody has to give you the experience. We as a government, we have to find a way to ensure that young people get resources. Of course, I do believe that we should monitor the businesses. There is going to be some level of loss, so we have to accept that. But I think, again, the Transformation Fund of the CBI program, again, which I call a transformative program, possibly in its effect, is a good place to do it. And the government is currently reviewing the fund to ensure that more resources are placed in small business development. Another area is community health. We need to focus on community health. I'm not the health minister. The health minister is best able to discuss the health issues, but with respect to funds and resources, the community health programs, again, will be funded by the Transformation Fund of the CBI. I think the overarching issue here is to allow the CBI program and the Transformation Fund of the CBI program to impact on people's lives in the communities. The section 11 of the CBI is going to build the hotels, is going to build maybe factories, it's going to build the bigger projects where people come in and they invest in these projects expecting a return. So that part of the CBI is going quite well, and we have several projects currently authorized as CBI projects, the Kimpton Bay and several of them that we are aware of. The area I'm addressing is that other part of CBI where someone donates some substantial amounts of money, expecting it to go to areas that will impact people's lives, transform communities, and therefore transform the country. And that is why the government is now engaged in discussions within cabinet and with some of the stakeholders to have the fund directed. And some of the areas are pointed out that is not limited to that. There would be other areas that the government and persons can make proposals, because we want to have the community and the people more involved in decision making with respect to where we go with the CBI and with the Transformation Fund. But in order to make it all happen, we must ensure that the CBI program itself is properly organized. That is why we are currently in the process of engaging with some persons, and in particular right now a consultant, to help not streamline, because it's already streamlined, but to help tighten the organization and to help ensure that the CBI is able to develop in a direction. And while we've not gotten to an agreement yet with the consultant, it is our expectation, our hope, that by the end of next month certainly, we'll have a consultant who will give us, as you're well aware, we need to review these programs as we go forward, will give us a report that will allow us to properly develop, continue to develop the CBI program. So those are some of the issues. Anything else you wish to ask me, I'm prepared to answer. Just remember that I can only answer a question for which I know the answer.
Thank you, Minister. I'm sure you didn't know you had all this to speak about.
Congratulations on your portfolio. You're almost 1 month in office, because today is the 16th, and in a couple of days you'll be 1 month. How soon are we going to be seeing changes to our ambassadorial positions? Because I know that is something that traditionally happens. And my other question before I hang up, so I don't know if you want to mark them down, is to do with changes to ambassador positions. Would we be seeing, as part of that, a High Commissioner appointed to the UK office? Because I know we haven't had one for a very long time. And the next question I have, as Foreign Affairs Minister, did your ministry was aware of what seems to have been the recent kidnapping of a person in captivity that was handed over in maritime waters? Was your ministry aware of that, and was any role played in that person coming back to Grenada? Sure. I have one other question, but I'll wait for the second round.
Give it now. Oh, she'll wait. Okay.
You want me to do it one time? Yes, if you want me to give it one time. Yesterday, you're the Minister for Labour. Yesterday at the Parliament sitting, one of the ministers made some queries, raised the whole issue of the last time that ministers of government had an increase was since 1999. We all know that members of Parliament would receive $1,200 for sitting for the month. Yep. As the Minister for Labour, MPs get $1,200 for the month.
Oh, MPs, right.
Wait, as an MP, but a minister of government has not received an increase in salary since 1999. Right. We're in 2018, so that is like almost 20 years. Right. As the Minister for Labour, how concerned are you about that? And what would you do to ensure that it changes in the positive?
As Minister for Labour or as a worker? Let me take the first one first. Ambassadors, we hope that by October to have made a decision with respect to ambassadorial positions, and we are in the process of reviewing them. Of course, any changes to be made will take some time. It's simply a matter of coming in and removing. We have to assess and make a decision. So I will hope by October to have made whatever changes where we see them necessary. As you're aware, it is not necessary just to change people because you want to change. You change where it is necessary. And where necessary, those changes should be in place by October. With respect to High Commission to the UK, we recently visited, as you're well aware, the Commonwealth Health meeting, and we held a wonderful meeting with the community, Grenadian community in London. And of course, we are always conscious of the fact that we do have a community in Britain to service, apart from the fact that you need to have the government engagements. We are currently reviewing the position with respect to a High Commission in London, or are we going to put a High Commission, or are we going to put a charge here, or are we going to put a consulate? It is a discussion that is taking place, certainly with the fact that it's very expensive in mind. The cost is the problem. It's not so much whether or not we want that. I have an old friend who always tells me to distinguish between what is necessary and what is possible. And we are going to be reviewing it as we go forward to see what engagement, what level of engagement, what level of representation, that we will have. But certainly it is a good question, and it is a question that we have been asked by the community, and one that we will answer, hopefully again by October, as to how we proceed with that. With respect to the kidnapping, now the Ministry for Foreign Affairs made certain contacts, but it is a matter that the Ministry for National Security really deals with. It's a national security issue. It is not a diplomatic issue except in establishing lines of communication, which was done, and that is all I could say on that. With respect to me being, as Minister of Labour, I agree with you. The ministers of MPs have not been, their positions, their salaries, I think it's called a stipend, has not been reviewed for many, many years. And it is something that the Prime Minister indicated yesterday, along with the ministerial salaries, as you're well aware, among the lowest in the region, will be reviewed. No decision has been taken as to what the outcome would or should be, but certainly it is something worth reviewing, given the fact that that ministers have a very hectic job, a very difficult job, a very sometimes demanding job, not only demanding of your time, but demanding of your limited resources. So it is something that I'm certain that as a Minister of Labour, if somebody came to me with that issue, I would certainly say, yes, it should be reviewed. And I'm sure any union representative outside there would say that if his workers came to them and said, listen, we have not received an increase in 20 years, that they will take it up and take it up very, very aggressively. So I expect as Minister of Labour, I don't think it will be a dispute that comes before me. But I do believe it's something that we have to address. And whether or not you increase it or don't increase it is something we need to discuss. There are a lot of assumptions about the ministers' positions and salaries that are absolutely incorrect, But yes, Linda, I agree with the Prime Minister's position where he says that a group, including the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, senior public servant, and other representatives, private sector, and I'm sure it's open to other suggestions, will review it over the next year to see where we go. And that is all that is happening at the moment. And I am sure I should say that there's nobody outside there. No, but I shouldn't say that. No reasonable person outside there, including leaders of trade unions, who would agree that their workers or any workers in the world should not review their salaries after 20 years. And, it's amazing that the ministers have not had a strike in those years on the issue of wages.
Morning, Minister. I have about 2 or 3 questions. The first one, you mentioned about the expansion of the temporary workers program. How much work has to go into making this become a reality? And do you have a time frame in mind as to when you would like to see these other categories of workers start working?
Yeah, I would like our Consul General in Toronto, Ambassador James. He has already engaged with the persons involved in the industry. He's also engaged with Jamaica and St. Lucia in that regard. The cycle for the next period is already been filled. In other words, we don't expect it to happen this year. But certainly by next year, we hope that we will have an expansion to include hotel workers, because you see, it will serve two purposes. It would help us find employment for some people, but it also will help us with training. Because as we expand our hospitality industry, we would see more of a need for training. As I said earlier, we'd have vocational training, but that can assist us. And St. Lucia, in fact, has done a good job in that, and Jamaica have sent off thousands of their people to Canada. So it's not a new area that we are trying to open. It's utilization of an existing facility. But I would expect that next year would be a more reasonable time to expect that we'll have some breakthrough in that regard. But initially, there have been good indications. I must say, too, that another mission, and Linda asked a question about London. Ottawa is a place where we don't have representation. In fact, over the years, there was a High Commission of the Eastern Caribbean. It was closed some years ago. St. Kitts recently opened a High Commission there. And the OECS, at our meeting in Belize recently, we took a decision, in our Bahamas recently, we took a decision to review it. And we have an agreement in principle to open an embassy, a High Commission in Ottawa, but it's not yet, the details have not yet been worked out. We are trying to work out the details. Either we cooperate with St. Kitts or we open a separate High Commission. But that too will help us to negotiate with the Canadian government to try to open the door to more temporary workers in other fields other than agriculture and apple picking.
All right, so yeah, and staying on the meeting in the Bahamas, what were one or two of the other salient points that would have come out of that particular meeting?
Well, in the Bahamas, we discussed several issues. Some of them are quite technical. Some of them are issues related to our cooperation with other countries. For example, we spoke about the climate change issue. As you're well aware, one of the problems we've been having is accessing funds for climate change, climate resilience, and in countries like Dominica and other islands, Antigua, Barbuda, they've been having difficulties accessing funds for a reason that they call graduation. Countries like ours, poor countries, vulnerable countries, we are considered, because of our GDP and populations, we are considered middle-income countries. Because you are middle-income countries, you are unable to access funds because you're not considered poor. But, when hurricanes hit our countries, it destroys all of the country. So regardless of whether or not you're rich or poor, the entire country is this. We are very vulnerable. So we have been trying to add vulnerability to one of the conditions through which you can gain access to funding. And this has been done by the bigger countries, like the G7 and G20. So what we discussed was having our countries, for example, have Canada, Great Britain, countries that are our so-called traditional friends, advocate for us in the G20 and G7 to have us have more access to funds. Jamaica, for example, has been invited to the next G20 meeting coming up soon. So that was discussed, the question of correspondent banking, where they've been penalizing some of our banks, or penalizing us in the sense that some of the banks have decided not to be correspondent banks for our banks, therefore threatening our entire financial sector. Again, that was discussed. And that is why countries like Canada and the US and Great Britain, we are seeking to have them advocate on our behalf, particularly Canada, who has been traditionally very supportive of less developed countries like ours, to help us in that regard. So those were some of the issues, in addition to having bilaterals with countries like Romania. We had bilaterals with India, with Germany, at the Bahamas meeting. So those are some of the issues that were discussed there.
Right, thank you. My final question to you. So you mentioned about hoping to have a consultant by the end of next month, correct? For the Transformation Fund?
If we find agreement, yes. For the
Right.
CBI,
Transformation
for the CBI program,
Right.
of which the Transformation Fund is a part of.
Right. So how would that report, whatever, once it works out, how would that help to determine the way forward for you in the program?
Well, it is not, the two issues are related but not intertwined. The transformation fund, the issues I raised on the transformation fund is something that is part of the mandate of the fund. So it already exists. The question is to ensure that the focus is good, that the government finds these areas of transformation or these transformative areas, and we use the money from the fund to target these areas. And that is more a decision for the government on the use of the fund. And that we hope to target our young people. Of course, as we're well aware, unemployment among our young people are too high, despite the fact that unemployment is dropping generally. So we need to focus that. So that's a job for the government. The CBI program itself is one that is in constant need of review. As you would have listened to the news a couple of days ago, Antigua has just dropped they're offering some 2-for-1 deal or something like that. And there's always a challenge to develop the CBI programs. You're well aware that the United States has one of the largest CBI programs. In between 2011 and 2012, the U.S. program earned them $5 billion with 562 projects that provided jobs of 174,000 for the United States. In 2014, I think there were 36,000 CBI, beneficiaries in the world. 80% of those 36,000 came from developed countries like the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and so on, not small countries like ours. So we have the program, and the program is a program that has been endorsed by the larger countries, but we need to constantly review it. So the purpose of the consultant is to review where we are, help streamline the program, and help keep it safe, because the biggest challenge we have and the biggest issue for us is due diligence to make sure that persons who become beneficiaries under our CBI program are the kinds of persons that we want. Canada has an immigration program. Canadian immigration program is this. They have what they call a point system. That if you're a professional, you get a point. If you speak 2 languages, you get a point. In other words, they are trying to attract the best and the brightest. You are well aware, and all of us are well aware, that countries like the US, they send back to us the people they call criminals, but they offer visas to those who are the best and brightest. We are trying to get some of their best and brightest to come to help us transform our country. So it's something that all countries do, and what we are trying to do is to bring in a consultant to not transform, but to help streamline and keep up with what is happening, because it is such a dynamic and competitive program. It is something, it's not, we have no crisis, all we have is continued development of the program.
Thank you. Okay, I have 2 questions. My first question is, there are a lot of reviews taking place in different areas that you would have mentioned. I take it that some of the structures that are in place are not that effective. Correct me if I'm wrong. And how soon can we see, perhaps, a result from the reviews that are taking place? And the second question is based on the recent Windrush scandal. Have any Grenadians been deported, and what's their position if there have been any?
With respect to reviews, I suspect that there are always reviews taking place, both in the public and private sector. I suspect that in the private sector, as we speak, we have consistent and constant looking at how it's working. Something doesn't have to be working bad, or something has to be wrong with something for you to look to see how you're going to develop it. I'm sure these cameras here were not the kinds of cameras you had 2 years ago. Not because the other cameras were bad, just because they're new kinds of cameras that can show me maybe much prettier or something, I don't know. So companies do it, GIS does it, GBN does it. You constantly try to upgrade your work to keep up with the competition, because it's a competitive world. The media is a very competitive industry now, so you try to keep up. So that is all we are doing. With respect to the offices, for example, the constituency offices, they have done a hell of a good job, but there have been some problems in some areas. But what we are trying to do is to find the best practice. You always try to find the best practice. How can we upgrade? How can you, when a car company puts out a car, they get back notes and, well, we could put this and put that, put a little gadget, and you'll be amazed. People will buy a new car just for a little gadget that was upgraded. So no, it is not because they weren't working well. It's only because we want them to work better than they were working because of possibly new kinds of practices. When I was an MP years ago, we got $1,500, and with the $1,500, I was expected to pay staff, pay rent, pay phone, pay internet, pay all that. When it was looked at, it was amazing that we were able to do it. How can you take $1,500 to do all of that? What was done? It was reviewed maybe about 8-10 years ago, and a new mechanism was put in place. Now what we have to do, is that new mechanism working as efficiently as it should? You get my drift. So it's not that they weren't working, it's just that. And we hope that the reviews will be soon, because we are hopeful that with respect to the constituencies, we hope the review can be done within the next month, at least to have the new system in place. But all ministries are reviewing. We are reviewing ambassadors, as I said, by October. There will be different timelines according to what the issues are that are being reviewed. With respect to Windrush, I am not aware of anybody who was actually deported, but there were attempts in London to deport persons I know to be Grenadian, or at least they were on the list of people. Nobody that I am aware. As you're well aware, the British themselves are not even aware of the whole entire list of people who were deported. But for Grenada, I am not aware of any person. But I just want to say this, that I want to praise the activism of the Grenadian community in London and the Caribbean community in London. Were it not for them, and were it not for the sensitivity of that community and the push in that community, that we would have had the result. And for that, I want to speak about the diaspora for 1 minute. Because again, it tells us about the importance of organizing our communities in the diaspora. Our communities in the diaspora have a lot of political clout. They are able to influence elections. That is why they're being paid attention. Because for example, in Toronto, Nolene, who is here, who lived in Toronto, will tell you we have Grenadians who have been elected in Toronto. We have Grenadians elected in New York. Jermaine Williams elected in New York. Our communities in the diaspora play an active part in the political process in the communities where they live. And I want to praise them and urge our people to continue to not let their vote be taken for granted out there, but let it be attached to benefit for our people in the communities in which they live.
Can I just
Let's just, because we're running out of time and we have a couple more who have to contribute. Jesse?
Oh, okay. Minister, you mentioned that we are engaging countries that are non-traditional, like the sub-Saharan Africa and Indonesia. What relationship are we trying to establish with these countries?
Well, two things. One, we have the establishment of what we call our foreign policy bureau will take a look at the world. We'll take a look at the world and see where, for example, if we determine that vocational training is a priority in the Ministry of Education, remember, to start with, that the Ministry for Foreign Affairs will have to interface with other ministries and to understand what it is they want us to do for them outside. We are not going out there simply on a joyride. We are going out there to seek to be part of the development process. So if, for example, the Ministry for Education says to us that we need vocational training, then we will look at the world and we will say, listen, best vocational training areas are this, A, B, and C. Then we will seek to have relations with these countries with the hope that that will be the reciprocal arrangement with them. Of course, as we engage countries, we also want to know what the countries want from us. There's a saying in diplomacy, there's no free lunch. You go out there, you establish relations. For example, in the case of Morocco, there's been a lot of political support on our part. We can never compete in terms of giving to them resources, but we give support in particular areas. So we are going to look at the world to see what it is they have to offer. For example, places like Angola are oil-rich countries, and there may be persons in Angola who want to invest in Grenada, who have an abundance of resources and would like to build a hotel, build a factory, build do farming. I spoke to the Algerians recently. They're interested in helping us in agriculture. We may find that a country is well known for developing equipment for agricultural production. So our engagements will not only be on the basis of quantity of countries that we look to engage with, but it will be the quality and what can we get from Grenada. For example, our engagement with the People's Republic of China has been enormously positive for this country. And it is one of the decisions that this government takes that has had a huge impact on our development, transformative impact. We are now engaging China on something called the Belt and Road Project, where they are going to be investing in infrastructure through a mechanism called the Asia Development Bank based in Beijing. We should be, one of our ministers will be visiting China soon to engage with them on that. How do we engage with China for the development of the country? And I just want to make that point, that our engagement in foreign affairs is not people, yeah, you're going here, you're going there. No, it's hard work and it's focused work, so that when we come back, we can say, this is what we do. Just as education does their thing, agriculture do their thing, we are interfacing with the world for the benefit of all these ministries.
Okay, Jessie Leon TV. Quickly, any concerns with regard to the ongoing labor situation with the guava workers, the nutmeg workers? They're saying that their concerns are not being addressed in terms of the labor commissioner not having responded to their union, their bargaining agent, and also the $0.0150 for the former triennium just now.
Well, you know, I have a meeting today with the labor commissioner. He has indicated to me that there may be some movement there. I'm not sure, but I don't want to make any comment now on that as we're in the middle of the process. It has not come to me as Minister for Labor just yet, but when it does come, you'll be the first to know.
Okay. One of the disadvantages of having a different person every week at these meetings is that you can't follow up. So I don't know if I could get some follow-up from Keisha or yourself, Mr. Minister, with regard to the seaweed, the cemetery regulation, the customs amendment. We were told that that bill was going to be tabled yesterday, and it wasn't tabled. So if you could just get an update on that.
He didn't say yesterday. He said it would be tabled soon. Upcoming, right? He didn't.
I think he said at the next sitting.
No, he probably misspoke. It didn't happen yesterday.
No, it didn't happen. I'm not sure if there's a particular reason, but sometimes these things are not tabled because of very technical reasons. So I can't comment on that. With respect to the seaweed, I know that Cabinet discussed that, and there's a committee that has been set up, and they are doing everything they can. One of the problems they have is that the more they move, the more it seems to come in. So there needs to be a deep study as to how we can avoid it. But certainly a three-man ministerial committee has been set up, and the cleaning has started. There has been some issues with where you deposit it. In fact, I think there's an intention to reach out to the farmers, so that I think the last time it was done, it was washed and the farmers used it on their farm. So work is continuing on that, and maybe a member of the committee who is engaged should maybe give a report to the media sometimes.
It's under the auspices of Ministry of Health. Yeah. They have the lead on that.
Okay.
But I assure you that Cabinet took the issue up, and the issue was intensely discussed, and there's movement on that.
Okay.
They are working. Yeah.
Cemeteries, the committee that you guys were supposed to set up?
No,
any further thing on that?
I don't. I was not in Cabinet last week. I was out of the country, so.
Last week is when it was reported, so we're not sure if there has been any movement this week.
Okay, thank you very much.
But I'll try to get the information and deliver.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. You're okay. You have any final words?
Well, just
you seem to be enjoying this.
No, I quite enjoy the media. I used to be a media worker in a previous life, so I quite enjoy them. So I want to thank you for being here. And, you know, Mr. Bishop is smiling. I used to be his media boss, so he must smile. So thank you for having me. I look forward to future engagements, and hope I have answered your questions adequately.
Yes, you have. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Linda, if it's not on him, it's not on him, you know.
Linda will ask me bilaterally in a few minutes. I'm sure
and no one can ever really answer it.
This year's Spice Mass climaxes on August 13th and 14th. It is an event you just cannot afford to miss. I am Tamaya Manu, Miss Grenada 2017, inviting you to the festivities, the shortney and all the different traditional mass, the fancy mass, the Monday night mass, and as Specky say, the best part of Carnival, the Juve. Spice Mass 2018 is one that's going to be fun, epic, unforgettable. Miss Grenada 2017 to Maya Monroe, inviting you to the Carnival Queen Show on August 9th, 2018, to witness the 7 beautiful ladies contesting for the title Miss Grenada 2018. It is an event that you cannot afford to miss. Miss Grenada said so.
This one is for mommy. You play your part and you still playing your part. I love you from my heart, boy. Mommy, you lost and love your body. Put it till you depart. This one's from my heart.
You do it.
$30 and you can win fantastic door prizes. Ecstatic 3. Friday, June 1st. Spice Mass Corporation presents White on the Sea. The Glow Cruise. Saturday, 26 May. Aboard the Rumbrella 2. Come party with the kings of our Soca Kingdom. St. David's Monarch. Blaze. Tonic. 2 times and reigning Groovy Monarch Dash. 2 times OECS Monarch. 2 times Road Match. 4 times and reigning Soca Monarch Boise. Tickets cost $40 with barbecue included. Get your tickets now from the Spice Mass office at the GCNA Complex, Kirati James Boulevard. Any Spice Mass Corporation member, Mitchell's Pharmacy in Grand Dance, or call 440-0621. Boarding time 7 p.m. White on the Sea. The Glow Cruise. You must wear white.
Ensure efficiency and reliability, and make electricity more affordable. The economy will grow faster, and in the end, the network company will sell more. With a stronger economy, electricity usage will increase, maintaining profits for the provider while the prices gets lower for the consumer. Power to the people. Oh my Grenada. In a liberalized economy, everybody wins. Liberalization is about the people of Grenada. Fair competition, fair prices, power to the people.
And good morning to Grenada, Carrie, Kupidi Martinique. Once again, it is time for Hard Talk. It's now 24 minutes after the hour of 11 o'clock. Yeah, 24 minutes after the hour of 11 o'clock. You've just had the post-cabinet press briefing. Took place on a Wednesday today because of the Parliament sitting yesterday. Yesterday, we had the first sitting of the lower house, or the House of Representatives, since the 2018 general election. So it was the first sitting, the 10th Parliament. Yeah? And boy, a lot of information come out there yesterday, you know. A lot of information came out there yesterday.
Information.
Yeah, but before we go any further, we need to say a very special good morning to all of you on the live. Yeah, seeing piles and piles of you. Chantal, we have business, eh? I find you ain't talking to me. Right, yeah. Betty, Patricia, Elsa, Christopher, Sherry. Yeah, see you again, Trouble Girl. Hannah, Depot, Floyd. Hey, my good partner Floyd, man. How you doing? Hey, Zingo. Yeah, man. Evelyn Alexander, the Zingo. Yeah, the original mat. Let's say good morning. Yeah, I'm going to try and sing it, boy. I know from Brazil. I can't sing. Denise, I'm seeing King Nick Francis. Good morning to you, bro. Good brother out there. About Jens and Vincent, where are they? I know it has been the UK, it has been St. Vincent, it has been the US, it has been bouncing all over.
Rolling Stone.
Yeah, you all over the Caribbean. Nick, yeah, he's a kind of Rolling Stone and shoot. Stephanie, Gillian, Neil, Patricia, watch everybody. Good morning. Because by the time I finish call name there, the program done. Yeah, and it's only roughly 30 minutes we have, 34 minutes that we have for today.
To expound or to, to give much needed information to our listeners.
Let's go to the last first, and then we won't go to the other part, because believe me, to explain and to speak about a lot of what was heard between this morning and yesterday is going to take us the rest of the week. First of all, we'll go to this morning's post-cabinet press briefing, since that's the one that's most fresh in our minds. We had just completed the post-cabinet press briefing. The minister up to bat, the Honorable Peter David, our Minister of Labour and Foreign Affairs, and he gave us quite a lot of information, man.
Lots of information.
Yeah, Devon,
that was his debut. Yeah.
In fact, in truth, that's the first time he's been on post-cabinet press briefing. Not only since the 2018 election. The last time he would have been on post-cabinet press briefing would have been under the NDC administration,
But then, even then, during post-cabinet, if it usually used to have post-cabinet meeting, you barely used to have Honorable Peter David.
Yeah, they didn't want him.
Yeah, he's one
But the last time he would have been there would have been quite back
during
then.
that time,
Yeah, it would have definitely be somewhere around 2010 or somewhere.
Or even before that.
So that's nearly 8 years ago.
Yeah, So,
yeah, man. And you find the man come and handle like a boss.
Yeah. Welcome back, sir. And I mean, as usual, you continue to do an excellent job when it comes to international relations and that sort of thing.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think that is an important point to jump off on right now. He mentioned it right after being sworn in as Minister of Foreign Affairs. And he mentioned it this morning again. That intent by the government of Grenada to seek new partners.
Exactly, very
to
important.
Go out there to countries that traditionally Grenada has not had diplomatic relations with.
Exactly.
And to forge relationships with those. Let me use a better word than forge, because forge sometimes all you want to go and say, or you're looking for any kind of thing to get at Peter, so let me not use that word. But to create new relationships between Grenada and those countries. He mentioned Vietnam.
Exactly.
And he also mentioned Indonesia.
Angola.
Yeah. There may be some people that sit down there and saying, what chopping is that man talking about Indonesia and places like Vietnam? Let's explain something to you. The opportunity would be there. Let's look at Vietnam first of all. The opportunity would be there for Grenadians to receive training in Vietnam. Various types of training. Particularly, and he did mention aquaculture. Yeah, they are one of the best on planet Earth in relation to aquaculture. That's growing shrimp or fish and so inland. Yeah. Also agriculture on a whole. They have been one of the top worldwide in relation to agriculture. So when it comes to these very important fields to the people of Grenada, we would find an opportunity now to be able to send some of our own people here from Grenada to Vietnam to receive training.
Exactly, learn new techniques.
Exactly. And plus, there are universities in Vietnam.
Oh yeah.
And I'm positive that many Grenadian students, they get the opportunity to go to Vietnam and go to university. They would grab that opportunity. You learn a foreign language, you learn a foreign culture, and you get a bachelor's or a master's or a doctorate from a world-recognized university. Yeah, so the opportunities are there.
And you see, countries like Vietnam and so, as they call them, third world developing countries, they have the experience in things. Well, that's what they call them. You understand? But they have a lot of experience, as we say, in agriculture. Watch, these people have been doing that for their livelihood during the 50s and the 60s and the 70s for survival. You understand? So, I mean, they have the experience. What better, places that our own people can go and learn, right, from these experiences and return to Grenada and implement some of the things, right? These are the way we have to go. Angola, the foreign minister, said Angola is another oil-rich country. Some of the technology we can learn right? Or I mean, people can go there and study. We could open up, I mean, for new investors from Angola. I mean, they have money, and so they might want to change scenery and develop in another particular area. Grenada may be that ideal country. So I mean, developing relationship with these countries, and so perhaps maybe a new thing that we're hearing, but it will be very fruitful if it's done properly.
No, but it shows with a fresh face, a fresh approach to Grenada's relations with other countries.
Exactly.
So traditionally, the countries that we've been in contact with are countries that are pretty close to Grenada, countries right next door and that sort of thing. Now we're looking further afield.
Further out.
I remember several years ago, speaking with some persons from Bosnia-Herzegovina, and they were very interested in forging relations with, I keep using that word, but anyway, in creating relations with Grenada. They wanted to have a relationship with Grenada. If you know Bosnia, it's pretty close to Russia, just below Russia actually, part of the former Czech Republic, Yugoslavia, sorry, not Czech Republic, part of the former Yugoslavia, and they are very interested in having relationships with Grenada.
Of course.
And it could be reciprocal, that they would be able to have students coming here, probably to SGO, wherever, and Grenada can have students going there. They are very interested in that. And it's good to see that approach to our foreign affairs. Not trying to be isolationists and just saying that, oh, okay, who we friend with already, we just maintain them friendship and we don't look for others.
Stay traditional. We know we don't need that. We need to expand. We need to go there and spread the tentacles, man. And
also, as Minister mentioned this morning, Grenada has already been sort of, quote-unquote, radical in our approach. He didn't use that word. I'm using that word. In our approach to our foreign relations. Before, it was the new National Party that decided that we're going to move away from the Republic of China and Taiwan and move toward the People's Republic of China. And we've seen the benefits to that. We have received literally hundreds of scholarships. And a lot of people may not know. And that's why I'll always have to call the name of Madame Ubokian. I'll always have to call her name. The present ambassador is building on the wonderful work that Madame U did in Grenada. And you've seen the situation where other countries, and I saw it, where other countries were getting 1 or 2 scholarships. And when they were getting, let's say they get 10, Grenada was getting 60. And I'm talking about the short-term training and so on right now. That other countries would have gotten 1 or 2 in it. Every time they got 1 or 2, Grenada would get sometimes as much as 10 times the amount that other countries right next door to us were getting. You're not hearing people in St. Vincent and so speaking about how many people they have going to China on a yearly basis. The only countries that I think were close to us was probably Jamaica, I think.
Yeah,
and to a lesser extent, Trinidad was close. But Jamaica was pretty close to the amount that we had going on a yearly basis on the short-term training. And then the full-term scholarships and that sort of thing, that Grenada has students all over China right now studying. In fact, when some of them finish studying, because they've done so well, the Chinese don't even want them leave. They want them stay. They want them stay. Yeah, some companies are offering them jobs as soon as they're finished in China. Yeah, because the Grenadian students have been doing so exceptionally well. And Grenada could have decided that, no, we're going to remain with Taiwan. That's our friend. We're going to remain with Taiwan. But Grenada did not break diplomatic relations with the Republic of Taiwan. Grenada created relationship with the People's Republic of China. And as you know, when you do that, that is it for Taiwan, and Taiwan ain't bothering with you again. Yeah? And we are lucky that we have been able to access, through that relationship, housing. In fact, right now, we have hundreds of houses being built through that relationship, that new relationship that was engaged back in 2005. So we have hundreds of houses being built right now. We have several that were built already that are now providing housing for many Grenadians. We've had the Grenada Athletic and the Grenada Cricket Stadium that have been built through that arrangement, plus assistance in many other areas. So there has been infrastructural assistance, there has been educational assistance as well, and assistance in many other areas.
And the foreign minister tapped into something that they wanted to start getting involved in with China, the whole question of involving some fund that's allocated for more infrastructural development, like roads and that sort of things. Tap into that. That is more help for Grenada. You see, so the more that we go out there and we look at the non-traditional sources and see what they can offer, and we can offer them in return, I think it will be some fruitful relationship going forward, right, for our country, right? Yeah. Too much times we tend to neglect countries that we just, for example, countries in Latin America, Central America, right? They may have similar economies like us. They may have, things that we can trade with and everything like that. But we tend to neglect them, for the bigger countries like the United States and so. But if we continue to explore on these relationships, I think Grenada would be in a very good place in terms of its development moving forward.
Then also the minister mentioned Indonesia. And some people may say, but we have nothing in common with the Indonesians. Yes, we have a lot in common with the Indonesians. Indonesia, they into spices as well. In fact, they're the world's #1 producer right now, I believe, of nutmeg and spices and that kind of thing. Grenada, we really have to reclaim a thing that is we own, because I don't find the level of clove and all kind of thing. Like the minor spices cooperative and so. Where you used to get a lot of clove and you get a lot of different spices and so. And you don't find these things as active as before. It's something that we definitely have to re-engage. But if we're getting the assistance from a country like Indonesia, who are also into nutmeg and so heavily, and into spices heavily, it would be able to assist our local farmers who may receive training
different techniques.
Exactly. To do what you're doing better.
Exactly. Because remember, we have the better quality, No matter where you go, Grenada's quality in these things are much better. But if we get to learn more techniques to enhance and to produce more, I think that's where, the relationship between these countries will come in really fruitful, And so hey, kudos to the foreign minister and his team and to the government for continuing to pursue, right, other avenues, right, to help Grenada and its people in its development and so.
Yeah, indeed. So I think Indonesia, and I think the minister may have been very specific in mentioning that particular country. But by the time minister say Indonesia.
Have some respect, eh?
Yeah, you had to put some respect on it. Yeah, by the time minister say Indonesia, know that somewhere in the background he already start making the connections with Vietnam and Indonesia. By the time he mentioned Angola, know for a fact that he's already made connections with Angola.
Definitely, And so and he has, set out some of the government's, international, slightly some of the policies and so that they want to pursue and everything. For example, the whole question of ambassadors and so, stating clearly by October we should see if there's any changes to be made or shuffle around. You will see everything settling down by time October and so coming up. So it's work in progress, and
you always have that every time, even if it's the same government and the government returns to power. You would have a little shake-up here and there. Generally, the entire thing remains the same, but you have a little shake-up. In fact, I'd have to remember the name Dr. Lamuel Stanislaus.
Yes.
And this was a gentleman who, every time government change, would submit his resignation
and they would refuse it.
Allow the government to either refuse it or to renew his contract. And so every single time that it could be the same government come back in office three times he would offer his resignation.
Protocol. He's definitely a diplomat.
We have a caller.
Good morning and welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning and welcome.
Is this Ato?
Yes, ma'am. You're live. Go right ahead. You're live, caller. Go right ahead.
Make new friends. Keep the old. One is silver, the other is gold.
I ain't make out the voice yet. Hello? Hello?
Make new friends. I think she left.
But you ain't even say who you is. I can't even tell who it is.
Make new friends.
And if it's a caller who always call, then you would have know to take the volume off of the radio we was hearing in the background and listen to us on the phone line. Ain't it?
And one of the things too with Honorable Peter David in terms of his pursue. His international connections over the years, is enormous, and he have developed definitely some contacts, right? And so that will be beneficial to Grenada, even during the revolution, even before getting into NDC, while in NDC, and now with that wealth of experience, Grenada is poised.
Hey, good morning, Sheldon.
Good morning and welcome.
Morning.
Sheldon, as the first caller said, you have friends and then you have to make more friends. And make more friends that a lot of Grenadians could get training in different fields.
You just clarify what the caller say.
Yeah.
Huh?
You just clarify what the caller said.
Because
I didn't really catch where they're coming from.
So you have friends. You keep a friend and then make new friends, expand. Because different countries had different skills in different things. So more train Grenadians in different fields. More train Grenadians in different fields is better for the Grenadian people. You are trained in different areas, so then you good. So anything, like if you train for that and you don't have it, and you have something else, you can also fit in, put yourself there because train for that area already. Alright? And Brother Sheldon, I just wanted to along the breakfast club Saturday.
Yes, 6 a.m.
For 6 a.m.
Yes, indeed.
And also the St. Luke's Anglican Church in Granville, they will be having the harvest on the 3rd of next month.
Okay, so we'll keep reminding on that one.
The 3rd of next month, is in June, the St. Luke's Anglican Church in Granville, they will be having the harvest.
All right, my brother.
All right, so you have one for the double.
Okay.
Yes, indeed. And so he just clarified what the caller was basically saying. Make new friends, but you remember the old as well, so that Grenada keeps connection with the friends that we have right now. But it's important to make new friends as well.
Exactly.
Caller, 6,000,000%. We behind you on that one. Yeah, that was the first caller was speaking about. Yeah, and I didn't catch what that caller. You see, you go so fast. I didn't catch that way you were saying. You understand?
So I think it will work out much better and best for Grenada when we make more friends. Persons that or countries that persons try to refrain from developing diplomatic relations with them. So once Grenada can benefit, right, in different ways, economic, in scholarships, in health, in whatever, we pursue it, right? Once it is within the international norms and standards, and so we'll go for it because we need to continue to develop our people.
Listen, I think that if you have to discuss something with a person, because one person on the live is talking about a negative in relation to one of the countries' human rights records and this sort of thing. What I'll say is that you cannot hold a discussion with your enemy in relation to what they're doing wrong. You can hold a discussion with your friend in relation to what they're doing wrong. So you do not decide that you're not going to have a relationship with a country because the media says that this country has been involved in A, B, or C. I don't think that's the right approach. Their friends, your friends can talk to you and say, listen, boy, I have friends who would call me and say, Sheldon, boy, I hear you say that, but I don't agree with you. And I don't think you're taking the right approach. And they may be able to talk me over to their position. They may be able to talk me over to what, in their view, is the correct position or what really and truly is the correct position. I may have held the wrong one. Yeah? But my friends can do that. You expect Dum Dum to be able to call me and tell me anything? For any time I answer the phone and hang it up.
Hang it up.
I don't want to hear from them. So you have to make friends with everybody. You should be friends with everyone. That is the way that you speak to people, yeah?
Yeah. And then you have to know and understand. Look, man, in this world out there, we cannot toe the line of countries, right, because of their problems with other countries. Every country must be able to make an independent decision as to the way forward. For example, we keep coming back and trying to follow countries like the United States when they impose sanctions on this country or they not this and that. But then, okay, let's take a typical example. They fight down North Korea, they do this with all other countries, right? What are they trying to do right now? Not to bring North Korea closer or other countries that they have been in turmoil with before. So why can other countries do that independently? Why wait on the United States and follow them?
Exactly. And let's look at an even bigger example. You've heard them say all sorts of things about China.
Yeah.
But who holds the most at the United States debt?
China.
And who do they keep very close personal relationship with?
China.
But they have all sorts of things to say about China.
They want to save millions of jobs right now.
It's China.
For the Chinese.
It's China.
It's China.
So as an independent country, you have your own independent will to hold relationship with which any country, any country on the face of the earth. That's part of being independent.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you don't decide that, okay, people say this and that about that particular country, so we're not going to have a relationship with them. Because there are relationships that can be very beneficial.
Very beneficial.
There are millions of people in Vietnam. Suppose some of them decide they want to come on vacation here in Grenada. They have a very vibrant tourist industry. There are things that Grenada could possibly learn from them and that they can learn from Grenada, because the relationship has to be reciprocal.
Of course.
It can't be one way, that we make a relationship with a person only for what we can get out of it. They'd only make that relationship for what they can get out of it too, so it has to be reciprocal. Yeah? So at the end of the day, we have to understand that these relationships are important, and what the minister has been speaking about, in fact, right after being sworn in, he made the statement about reconnecting with the African continent.
Yes.
It's not a matter of forging relationships. It's not a matter of connecting with Africa. It is a matter of reconnecting with the African continent.
Joining that wire back.
Yeah. There are literally thousands upon thousands of billionaires, and millionaires living in the African continent who are looking for places to set up businesses and places to invest. Should we tell them no because you're from Africa? No, we don't want you. We don't want you. No. I mean, no, we can't do that. And outside of that, as Grenadians, and the vast majority of Grenadians, we all have some sort of connection to the African continent in some way. And me believe in this thing about subcontinent, the African continent. It's nothing sub about that, because when you're either a human and then they call it subhuman. So they watch Africa and they say subcontinent. Ain't no subcontinent. It's a continent. Some people want to talk about the African subcontinent. It's not no subcontinent, it's a continent. Is that is or you are not? Yeah?
Yep.
You are or you are not. You is or you are. But it is important, and the minister did make mention previously of those connections. Angola, it's a country that's rich in mining and that sort of thing, and mining and diamonds and oil and that sort of thing. We're starting up a petroleum industry here. There are lessons that can be learned. There are people that can be trained. It might be that you have some Grenadians going to Angola on a full scholarship to get training in the petroleum industry. Don't think that what is being done helter-skelter.
Nope.
There is an aim and an objective behind it, and its aim and objective is to improve the livelihood and standard of living of all Grenadians while maintaining that international perspective as well, that regional and international perspective as well.
And what? Countries like Angola, Angola over the last 30 or 40 years, right? Academically and different ways has been receiving a lot of aid from a country like Cuba, right? For example, educational and everything like that. And they have been able to use that, right? Use their people, educate them and make them return to Angola to help develop their economy. Now they can export the same type of services that they would have got from Cuba. So you have more countries now, right, that is available to give to the smaller countries, I mean, scholarships, right? I mean, economic aid, either through health services and so, because of where they got it from. So it's in other words, it's supposed to be a continuous something started by persons like Fidel Castro and so, who are able to stretch out their hands and help the lesser developed countries to develop. No, they can do it. Countries
for instance,
like Angola.
you have South Africa, and one of the largest populations not the largest actually belongs to Nigeria. But you have one of the largest populations, one of the most developed countries in Africa, South Africa. Yeah, there's a lot of poverty there as well, but there is a lot of development in South Africa. There's a lot of development in Nigeria. In fact, all African countries, there's a lot of development. what we tend to see and the image that is pushed on us as Afro-Caribbean people is always the image of the mud hut, or some people with a loincloth running up and down, dodging African lions and tiger and them kind of thing, or of a bunch of people who can't live together, so you have this war between this tribe and that tribe. That's always the image that the media portrays to us. They don't show you the superhighways running through parts of Africa. They don't show you the skyscrapers and the nice buildings in different areas. They don't show you the industry that take place in different area. They only try to show you the poverty and that sort of thing. Yeah,
that's
but
what
it's important for us to make that connection with the African continent, and I'm glad to see that that is one of the aims of this administration. There's a lot that we can gain from those relationships. Believe me, there's a lot that we can gain from those relationships.
Because we have a young population, right, who is eager, vibrant. They want to be educated. They want to move forward, right? So if avenues are being channeled and looked for to send all these young people to, put out the energies and so learn things and come back. Look, Grenada in the next 10, 15 years, right, will be one of the most developed, if not the most developed country within the Caribbean region. We have the potential, right? We have the energy and we have the persons who can go out there and and do the negotiations. The Prime Minister, has been leading that team in ensuring that Grenada, get his fair share out there. You understand? So,
you make a joke. All them African leaders and them, they're going to be checking the boss.
Of course.
Because they want to find out how to win. how to legally win all the seats in the election.
All the seats in the election.
That's what they want to know. They want to know how to legally do it. Because, in some cases, in certain countries, not only in Africa, but in Asia, all over the world, South Central America, all over the place, sometimes elections are not always free and fair in some countries. Yeah. So all of them want to know now. They want the formula.
They want the formula.
Yeah. They want the formula of how to do it.
Yeah, the electoral formula to win, to defeat your opponents consistently, not once, not twice, 3 times, where they win a seat.
How do you put a shellacking on your opposition? Folks, before we go any further, just to let you all know, the Maurice Bishop International Airport, they've got their sports and activities club. We have to keep the people active because I don't watch when them playing coming in. They have to be active. You understand? Right. So the MBIA Sports and Activities Club, they are having their night cruise. That is going to be taking place next week, Friday, the 25th of May, aboard the Rum Runner 2. Tickets only $40. Barbecue, of course, is included. And they have in-house DJ, they have DJ Nitro, Bomb Squad, Bane and Sub Junior. All right, the boarding time 7 p.m. and the boat sails at 8. 8 o'clock, the boat moving. You wouldn't like to go on the airport and they tell you a plane leaving at 8 and the plane leave at 9. So when they tell you the boat leaving at 8, believe me, 8 o'clock, the boat is leaving. All right, so the MBIA Sports and Activities Club, they have an all-black affair. That's the annual night cruise, Soca on the Seas. That's going to be taking place the 25th of May, next week Friday. Not this week, next week Friday. And that's aboard the Rum Runner 2. For tickets, you could contact members of the association, 415-2054 and 534-5230. So 415-2054 and 534-5230. We'll be giving you that in and between again. And then this Saturday, we have Dashville.
Dashville.
You have something else. Give me something else.
The Granitang House. Yes.
The Granitang House, you have it?
It's reopening.
Yeah.
This Saturday. Yeah. Come and enjoy. Real food. Come and eat food, but buy your drinks.
Yeah.
Right. Under new management, come out and support. Right. From around 5 in the evening. Come up at the Granitang House and hey, remember, walk with a little coat because you go be real chilling.
Real food, yes, but we doubt monkey will be on the menu.
No, monkey will not be on the menu. Right? The Ministry of Agriculture has ensured that a warning is put out. No monkey, but you get everything else. You gain fish waters, you gain, all kind of things. So be there Saturday. Come out. The Granitang House on the new management.
Yeah, we ain't thinking of that tonight. Yeah, We have no monkey.
No
no monkey. Look on top of the building, you go see the drinks sign there because they say drinks on the house.
No, food. You
food
buy
on
your
house.
drinks.
So the
You
food,
eating-
that look
you
for the
eating
food.
real food, yeah.
So the food all over, look on the roof, look on the sill.
Yeah, all kind of
Right, okay,
things.
the
But
food-
don't look for the monkey. You may see the monkey going through the trees and so. Don't look for the monkey on the menu. It's,
Anyway, good morning to you, Brian. I know Brian is on his way up to Travelers Bar in a little while because, in fact, there's a Brian in there right now. Brian, yeah, we know soup today, boy. Soup today, boy. Pea soup up by Travelers Bar. Short man and Yvette. Good morning. Oh, boy. And I forget.
pea soup, you have saltfish?
Hey, I hear. Hey, you're going there now? Nazim coming. Sheldon coming too, eh?
Short man, you have saltfish in the pea soup? I mean,
Boy,
separate?
hey, listen, you put him in trouble. I go to eat my soup Friday. They come asking me with Devon. You understand? I don't know if they are ital soup and things.
Well, let me know now, short man. Before I leave here, let me know now. You have 5 minutes. Let me know.
Yvette, just organize my pea soup for me, please. I will come up. Me and Nazim will come. When Nazim coming up, I will come up on time, right? So organize a pea soup for your boy. You know, as your boy, Yvette, organize me. Because short man does hear sometime and sometime he don't hear. So I'm calling out Yvette on that one. But folks, also remember, when you're heading by Travelers Bar, you could pass there today, you get your pea soup and thing. You could pass on Friday or get your mutton. But Saturday is
morning.
very important.
Yes.
6 a.m. at Travelers Bar right there in Fontenoy. They're going to be having that fundraiser for the family that would have lost their home and their loved ones just about a week and some ago. They're going to be having that activity there. Okay, so that's the Northwest Welfare Group together with Travelers Bar. They're going to be having that activity there. All right. Devon, the same.
I line Brian, boy. You're worthless.
Only pig.
You're not a rubber team, so man.
I tell you, Brian will be up
He
there
up there already. You see, the man talking about only pig.
Brian up there. I tell you, I know Brian. So
I say, take out the meat. Watch, all better leave me alone, eh?
Take out the meat and wash the soup. Yeah. Wash the meat out of the soup. Just take it and wash the meat. Wash the soup out of the meat. I mean, yeah. Well, the meat out of the soup. Yeah, you can do that. Right. Yeah, folks, we're nearly out of time. We didn't really want to get into the issues as regarding the passport and the minister's salaries and so on. But we definitely can promise you that we will be dealing in depth with yesterday's parliament sitting. Quite a bit of information came out. For those of you that listened to the entire thing, there was a lot of important information that came out in yesterday's parliament sitting. And also this morning at the post-cabinet press briefing regarding the passport and all of these other things, we're going to give you full explanations tomorrow in relation to those issues, because we know that there are a lot of people that put out a lot of false information out there.
Yeah,
they have not learned to stop taking the intelligence of the Grenadian people for granted. They have not learned. I ain't the one that going to teach them. I want to continue just so. Continue lying and making a fool of themselves. I don't mind. But they have not learned not to take the intelligence of the average Grenadian for granted. So if they want to continue doing that, who are we to stop them?
They have a price to pay.
They have a losing formula. Continue using your losing formula.
I love that.
If every time you drink rum, you end up in a drain. And you go say, well, I don't want to end up in a drain, but you're still drinking rum. Well, too bad. It's in a drain you go end up. So if they want to continue in that line, no problem by us. But we'll continue to provide you the correct, truthful, and factual information. Yes, so tomorrow, we promise you, God's willing, because you know Nenny go call me, God's willing, we promise you that we will definitely be dealing with the issues of the new passport and so on. And we have audio that we can play to back up what we're saying. And so the issue of parliamentarians and their salaries, and so, because some of you may not know, a sitting senator right now without a portfolio, guess how much money they're receiving on a monthly basis?
What, $800?
Yeah, $800. Which means that an Imani trainee at the highest level, at the $1,000 level, is actually getting more than a parliamentarian who is sitting on the opposition side or even on the government side without portfolio. So that these persons are getting $800.
Frank, I feel your pain, miss.
Nah, but Frank, I was talking shopping. Is what Frank I mean. I mean, I had Doc said yesterday, the Prime Minister did say yesterday that, look, the money that he got as opposition leader couldn't pay for the gas for him, for his operations as opposition leader. In his case, I can understand that, because he's not just speaking as opposition leader, you go to parliament. That money was not just to go to parliament. He had to go to all ends of the island. And I remember in opposition, when he used to be in Cloge, in St. Andrew, all in Baghdad, all over the place. You wonder in where's Baghdad and Grenada? Learn St. Andrew, you go, no. But all different parts, whether it's St. David, it's St. Andrew, St. John, and different things, that Dr. Mitchell, as opposition leader, used to have to drive and go there. Outside of that, remember, he had to operate the leader of the opposition office and staff and stationery and all these different things that had to be taken care of, the bills and so. So definitely it was not enough. But when you hold absolutely no portfolio, all you get is $800 to come to Parliament sometimes once a month, and you say you can't, that couldn't pay the gas. In that statement, something had to be definitely wrong there. Because it had to be a Sherman tank that you was driving, well, an Abraham's tank that you had to be driving. But anyhow, yeah, so some people don't know that, but they run around saying all sorts of things. A senator who holds no portfolio actually receives less than a Imani trainee that's being paid at the highest level. A trainee and not a person working full-time. The stipend of a Imani trainee is more than the person that's sitting in the Parliament of Grenada making laws. And there are some people that are out there that's saying that's correct. And if you look at it, a parliamentary representative who is going to be paid only $1,200 a month, and this nonsense about them getting 10,000 something. That's why Philip Alexander ended up in court, because he went and made that statement and accused people of thieving money when he knows it's not true. But anyhow, there's another situation for another time. That may be why he's driving all over with flag hunting right now. That may be beating on the conscience. The courthouse that maybe have him so. Yeah, Philip. Yeah, anyway, Philip, my dear. Last night I thought was you alone in here. Where did you go?
You're on your own with that one.
There was a man in the bedroom.
Oh my God.
It have a sparrow for nearly everything, you know. But anyhow, yeah. So folks, that's all the time that we have for Hard Talk. Today we're going to deal with these issues more in depth tomorrow. Because remember, $1,200 man for a parliamentary representative. So just $200 more than a Imani trainee.
Now, it don't make sense. That is why the Prime Minister said that he will set up a group of persons.
Okay, time to go. Before we lose the soup, time to go. Hannah, I agree with you.
Now, before I lose all the soup, all the thing, or let lose it, we could talk for the whole day. I want to lose it. Only have to poke. Short man, what? I need that, you know. Anyhow.
Anyway, that's all the time we have for today. Folks, it's been wonderful being here with you. There will be a rebroadcast of this program at 8 p.m. I'm not too sure if CRFM would be back up by then. There's a little technical issue with CRFM, but we'll get that sorted out before the end of the day, hopefully. But definitely, we'd like to thank all the stations who joined us today. Hope that you all have a wonderful, wonderful remainder of the day. The live will be available for you to review so you can hear what the minister would have said and what the people from our good friends there, Inspector and Superintendent from down at the Immigration Department spoke about. It'll be available a few minutes from now online, so you can check and get that. Folks, that's all the time we have. And whatever you say, whatever you do it safe and secure. I want to be speaking to and with you.
And not about you.
Love each and every one of you unconditionally.
IMF forecast strong economic growth for Grenada for 2018-2019. Details to this story and more in the National Report. Welcome back with the National Report for today, Tuesday, May 15, 2018. I am Wendy Edmond. The International Monetary Fund has forecast that 2018-2019 will be the strongest year for economic growth for Grenada. On Tuesday, the Ministry of Finance, together with IMF's official, held a press conference highlighting their findings after a thorough assessment of the economic activities of the country. The mission, led by IMF's representative Bogdan Lizovolik, met with government officials, members of the business community, the labor unions, and the civil society. In its new assessment of Grenada's economic outlook, the IMF predicts growth this year and next year of 3.6%. However, it warned that performance could be curtailed by minimal risks. IMF Mission Chief to Grenada, Bogdan Lizovolik, also made mention of the influence of the CBI program and credit unions towards Grenada's economic growth.
Economic growth in Grenada has been strong. Our assessment is that 2017 economic growth was 4.5%. That is substantially above what we estimated before. That is underpinned by good progress in construction sector and tourism sector. On the other hand, performance of the agriculture sector was a headwind because of weather-related negative effects. But overall, GDP growth has been way above what we had been projecting before.
Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell has given the assurance that the SEED program is not on hold. He was speaking during a meeting of the House of Representatives on Tuesday.
The SEED program is not on hold. We are not, some of the problems that were evident in the house repair special project needing assistance, we cannot say that about the SEED program and the way it was managed and implemented. And that's to the credit of the Minister of Social Development and, of course, our friends who have supported this program consistently so.
Social Development Minister Honorable Delma Thomas also confirmed that the program is ongoing.
SEED, Mr. Speaker, the program is going well, and there were miscommunication where they believed that the program was on hold. However, this program is continuing as normal, and therefore I want to let beneficiaries know that this month your benefits will be available from the 24th of the month.
Minister Thomas says in subsequent months they will seek to pay 1 week before the end of the month to avoid the hassle experienced at month end. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
This year promises to be a spectacular affair as beauties of the Caribbean compete on one stage for the title of Miss Caribbean United. Come see contestants from the islands of Trinidad, St. Lucia, St. Kitts, Nevis, St. Vincent, Anguilla, Dominica, Venezuela, Antigua, Dominican Republic, Margarita, Barbados, and host country Grenada. It's the 2018 Miss Caribbean United pageant, Saturday, June 2nd at the Spice Basket, uniting the Caribbean through beauty.
Welcome back. A major cleanup operation is on the way on the sister isle, Carriacou, in a bid to rid the island's beaches of sargassum, which has begun flooding the beaches once again. Details in this report. The cleanup on the mainland and Carriacou is being undertaken by the Ministry of Climate Resilience, the Environment, Forestry, Fisheries, Disaster Management and Information in partnership with the Ministry of Health. It is being done in collaboration with private contractors in effort to accelerate the process, and it follows a cabinet-approved action plan for the sargassum cleanup, which runs from May 9th to June 8th, 2018 in the first instance. The sargassum is on various beaches like Telescope, Soubise, Marquis, and Hope in St. Andrews, Las Jess in St. David, Windward, and Mount Pleasant in Carriacou. Minister Kendra Matthew, Stewart of the Ministry of Caricom, Petit-Martinique Affairs and Local Government, says that the ministry is doing all in its power to ensure the eradication of the sargassum on the two main beaches in Carriacou.
We are presently at the Mount Pleasant beach. Cleaning work started sometime yesterday. We've engaged a contractor to assist with the provision of the services to remove the sargassum seaweed from this area. It is an area that is used quite frequently by the people of Mount Pleasant and surrounding areas. And so over the last 2 or 3 days, we've had personnel coming to clean up and to remove the seaweed from this particular area. And we are very happy and pleased with the process, with the progress of this activity, and hopefully something that we look to continue as we are plagued with this this issue.
Residents, mainly on the eastern side of the island, say they are experiencing the adverse impacts of the sargassum because of the noxious odor and inconvenience to their livelihood.
Most likely, as the sewage now start to come, they should have heap up the sewage. They should not make the sewage they pile up there like that, so you know. Right now, the sewage going down, you're going down the sewage, you're looking like that, you're not cut up over your knee. Yeah, it deep down there, no matter you see it so, you know. And when you go down in it, your foot sticking, you have to get a force to pull it up. To raise a foot to drop it again, they're real terrible, you know. So, excavator come along this man in a stick, right? Come to take it out, they leave and they gone. Or when you should climb by the road, people passing in a vehicle, and you might find the barrier, nobody knows something like that. It's smelling bad. They're real bad, real bad.
To be honest with you, in Maki, we don't really have the strong scent in Maki like how we have it in Subies and Telescope. We don't have it because if you realize the water moving, you know, it'll settle like Subies one way. Keep moving, so we don't really get the scent like how Subies and other places get it.
Well, to be truthful, the seaweeds are good and are bad. Because when you say sometimes we hold fish bite and sometimes we don't hold fish. But on the other side, when boats have to pass, some of them boats can go through it. You understand? And when it comes shore again, depending on where you developing, it's smelling stinky, spoiling TV, spoiling all different kind of things. You understand? Radio, even your fridge, door, the chain, all them kind of things is spoiling.
Many persons see the sargassum as waste, but it has multiple valuable uses. In Grenada, sargassum is already being used, once rinsed with fresh water, as an organic fertilizer, and farmers are reporting excellent results, especially with vegetables. A new wages advisory board is being established in the Ministry of Labour. During a meeting of the House of Representatives on Tuesday, Labour Minister Honourable Peter David said the board will examine wages in various sectors. Setting up of the board is just one of the initiatives being undertaken by the ministry in response to concerns by trade unions and the Employers Federation.
Setting up the wages advisory board will certainly cause us to have a look at minimum wage. As you're well aware, there is no single minimum wage, but there is a minimum wage for various sectors. We in the ministry are now reviewing that. We are going to set up the wages advisory board to have a look at the wages in various sectors.
This has been the National Report for today, Tuesday, May 15, 2018. I am Wendy Edmond, thanking you for viewing.